sure if I was professional, I'd get the lights sorted out before we started. Merry Christmas. Hooray. Got the Christmas jumper on. That's good. Tidying up all the table behind, because I need to get out of the green, through the green cloth onto the desert cloth, through the desert cloth onto the snowy cloth. Not that it ever snows where I live. It is a rare event. I've lived here for 13 years and I haven't seen the snow once. There is snow in the county and nearby, but it's up on the moorland. I live right on the coast. I think a combination of wet, salty air and general coastal conditions mean it rarely snows. And if it did, I don't think it'd settle. So, one of the prices you pay, you see, for living by the seaside. You get all the bonuses in the summer, but I'm not mad keen on, as I get old, I wouldn't be keen on it snowing all the time. But I do like the idea of it snowing at Christmas. I always thought it'd be lovely if it could start snowing, perhaps at midnight on the 23rd of December, and settle, and then perhaps snow gently until end of January, on and off. Not so much as it upsets and depresses anybody, but just enough to look pretty and hide everything that's not nice. That would be good. I'd like that. Well, there you go. Can't have everything, can you? I'm still going to sing White Christmas and watch the film. Got all my Christmas films I've started to watch. Got my Christmas war games I'm starting to plan. That's going to be fun once we get into things. Because we're moving, or we think we're moving, it's still not decided. So we're all up in the air about that. We're waiting for other people to make decisions, not us, sadly. So out of our hands, there's nothing we can do. We can't speed the process up at all. But it means we're in such a sort of muddle everywhere with boxes and possibilities and plans, and things might have to move quickly, that we're not really decorating the house like we might in the past. We're big fans of uber decorating. Now, tasteful, don't get me wrong, tasteful, but just sort of like a nice tree and a few bits, nice and cozy. But we haven't been able to do that. I've only just tonight started to move boxes from out the living room out into the workshop loading area, so I can shift if the day ever comes that we get to move. But I'm thinking I might be wise, whatever happens, forgetting the outside workshop and using that for wargaming, because I only do that once in a blue moon. Even in the summer, I very rarely wargame out there. So it might be an idea to not have it set up for big wargames and to use all of the space for storage, which would mean I could have storage that I could see more easily for a start. Because at the moment, everything's in anonymous boxes and you've got to keep moving boxes and opening them to try and work out what's in them and put them somewhere else. And inevitably, what you want's right at the bottom of a pile, and then the second thing you want, you've made at the bottom of another pile. Perhaps I could spend time organising that better. And I think there are things that could go, really. I think there are better ways of doing the way I organise stuff. What I did originally was, because I didn't have any money, I was really on my uppers, as we say. So anything that came along for free, I went, oh, yes, please. And I made best of a bad job. But now I don't need to do that. So I've got things that made do in the past that I don't need to make do with, but I've still got them, if that makes sense. So I do need to sort that out. I'm going to have to make some announcements, I think, about the live shows that we're doing, because we've done every Friday. Hiya, mate. Hiya, Neil. How are you doing? Good to see you. How are you feeling? Oh, brill. Be nice for Christmas, feeling a bit more with it, doesn't it? I was just about to, I think, trying to plan what to do for this live Fridays over Christmas, because I've got a number of, I don't want to moan about things. I've got a number of domestic issues which might cause me problems over the next month, and I've got a possible move which might cause me more problems over the next month. Changing the internet and setting things up, and then it's Christmas, so I don't know what the family are planning on. So I'm wondering, I might say next Friday might be the last one until sometime in the new year. So I just saw heads up. There's only, to be honest, you and Eric come on here regularly, and then other people catch up on it. So they'll hear, and then I'll mention it on some videos later. But then get back to it in the new year. I think that's probably a sensible plan. Have you getting plans for Christmas all sorted out? I notice you've got a mysterious project that you're planning. I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. I nearly replied when I saw that you said you'd got something planned. I nearly sort of replied instantly and said, "Oh, interesting." And then I thought, well, I'm talking to him in half an hour, so I'll wait. Yeah, I'm going to do my World War II game next. But I'm just having, it's so complicated. I have so many figures and so much scenery. It's a nightmare to get it all sorted out. And every time I war game with World War II, and it's if we do a big game like at the club, I get all the units sorted out, take them to the club, and then people don't put things away in the right boxes. And they put them away meaningfully, helpfully.
This is a reminder.
And everything ends up just as muddled as it was before. And rather than come home and unpack it and reorganize it, I just put it away. And then before I've got a game like this week, I've got to reorganize it again because I didn't do it at the time it went wrong. So I don't know. It's easy to stay organized until other people get involved with your games, and then they don't put things back where they belong. So at least we don't go anywhere for Christmas. My son lives in Las Vegas now. He's just moved, and his wife. So that we won't be an issue going to see them. We're not going. And my daughter and her husband live in the same town as us. So again, that's not a problem for seeing people. We tend to see people Christmas Day. Well, we see my daughter and her husband Christmas Day in the afternoon. And then Boxing Day, they're going away to see his family. So there's no one around then. Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, very good. A corpse, my kingdom for a corpse. That is inspired. I'll be very interested to see how that goes. Because these sort of imagination games are a lot of fun, aren't they? I don't know. Even if you're not feeling 100% or you don't have somebody to war game with, you can plan and think and imagine. I think I spend as long looking at the table, wondering over it, moving little bits, trying to make it all look pretty, as I do wargaming. I ordered the other day. I got this box. Have I still got it? Where's my box? Yeah, I've got this box. Which is now full of rubbish. So this box came. And I thought, wow, that's a big box. I don't know what I've ordered that fits in this box. So I opened it. And it was, first of all, it was full of bubble wrap. And then it was full of like polystyrene chippings. And then it was full of newspaper. And then right at the bottom is that. It's a tortoise. It's a little tortoise to go in my pirate game. Thought he could wander about on the beach. Well, that's a lot of packing for a very little tortoise. Oh, that tickled me. What company are you getting them from? And are you doing your own rules, or are you basing them on something you play anyway? Undead Orcs is a nice idea. Years ago, do you remember Citadel? Well, Games Workshop did some undead zombie things. Oh, right. Oh, I'll have a look at them. I remember back in the 80s, and I didn't get a lot, but Citadel did sort of undead trolls and orcs and elves and cavalrymen from different races, just so that all your army of the undead weren't human. And I've still got kicking around a couple. I've got an undead troll and I've got an undead orc. But I'm sure they were Citadel. And I should have got more at the time. But I find eBay really useful. A lot of the stuff I get now, I go to eBay first. I mean, if like Christmas and stuff, if we're buying things and they're from Etsy, I do take advantage of the free stuff. But I always think you've got to be careful because they flash up all these free offers and it looks great. You choose all the free things and then it says how much you've got to buy to get the free things that now you really want more than the stuff you went on the site for. I think you've got to be very disciplined. Although I did get these recently on Etsy. I got 3 of them. They were free. Well, they were free in as much as I was buying other things. Oh, they've come out quite nice, painted up, like sort of big harvested piles of stuff. Oh yeah. I like that. I like the way as proper Englishman goes inside to put on his dress uniform so he looks nice. When they all come and stab him. What scale is he? Is it like a sort of 28mm figure, or have you gone to 54 and done just a sort of posh diorama? We do the Sudan as our colonial game, 28mm. Yeah. Brilliant. Ours is was it a specific diorama that you bought then was from Perry's, or have you made up all the bits for the Gordon figure? I've got a few Perry's. A lot of my colonials, the actual soldiers are mainly Perry's, and then the Mardists, a lot of Warlord, because you just get a box with a lot in, don't you, really? because we do it on a very character-driven level. You're a lieutenant with 10 men, and you get, if you're in a battle, you get a point of experience, and if you survive, you get, if you draw, so you don't get a victory, but it's not a loss. You get 2 points, and if you are victorious, you get 3 points. And every time you get 10 points, you can trade them in. So you can have a fairly low ranking medal, or you could get some trait bonus, or you could get eventually promoted. Thing is, you don't want to get too promoted, because if you become higher than a field officer, you have to leave the game and go off to high command. So majors, really, about as high as you want to go. I've not seen those. I'll have a look at those, when we've gone. I think that might be my next thing to have a look at. I like the look of those. I like the thought of those. Because they have some nice figures, don't they? I love Perry's. It was a really interesting. Have you ever watched on YouTube Little Wars TV? The American lads who do a lot of. They've got their own sort of war game house, and they do some really good things. But they've recently done one where they came to the UK and they met the Perry brothers, and the whole episode is them meeting the Perry brothers and going around the workshop and looking at how they make the larger green models and then reduce them and everything. Fascinating stuff. And have you seen that? It's Agincourt, isn't it, that they did at the Armouries in Leeds? That's a cracking piece of work. They also, some of their figures are also with Foundry. If you go to Foundry, they've got some Perry figures. But I think they're the only figure. They're the same figures as you get from Perry's anyway. I don't think there's anything special about them. But I've also got some nice Foundry colonial figures, like British explorers drinking cups of tea with little saucers. So my colonial army is a bit of a mixture, really. Although I did get some nice Egyptians. They're all the same. They're all marching. The lads in white with red fezzes, and I've got a British officer with them. But like I've said, we only do a colonials. It's a sort of skirmish, low-level game. We don't really. We tried doing. A mate of mine does the Zulu Wars, and he's got an amazing 20 mil scale model of Rorke's Drift. But it's so hard to wargame it in any sensible way. If you do it realistically, the Zulus overwhelm the British. And then if you try and fiddle with the stats or the situation, you can make the British too powerful. And really, it's just a game where a lot of redcoats are surrounded by a lot of Zulus. There's not much of a tactic. It'd be like doing Omdurman, wouldn't it? I've done things like, is it Abu Kir? What's it called? Oh, in the Red Sea Hills. I've forgotten. Anyway, there's a battle I've done. And I've got a nice naval brigade from Perry's. They're nice figures. So that's one of my platoons. And I've never done the Crimean War at any scale, for any reason, ever. Yeah, all right, Flintlock. Thinking I'm thinking of the right people, aren't I, with Flintlock? Are they the guys that do Napoleonic figures but as animals? Because I'm sure there were toads. I think they were Spanish, Napoleonic Spanish, but they looked like toads. And my mate had a load of dogs. And I can't decide if they were. No, they wouldn't have been French. They'd have been British, wouldn't they, the dogs? But it's a long time since I've got, that is going back. Must be 30 years since I played Flintlock or had any Flintlock figures. But yeah, I did have one platoon of 10 toads. I'm sure they were Spanish. The officer had like a bicorn hat on and big epaulets. Oh, man. Happy days. And I can see these little guys, these little dogs. I'm sure they were British. They were like terriers. Nice figures. I have to keep doing this to read what you said, mate. Yeah. Me and my mate were talking this week. We had a game on Wednesday afternoon, playing the pirate game I've organised, and we were saying, if we could go back years, a lot of the games we do, we would have done at smaller scales. Well, like English Civil War, we have massive English Civil War armies, 28 mil. I'm talking huge, with so many figures that even on a 16-foot by 5-foot table, we can't put them all out. There's no flanks. We go from end to end. There's nowhere to put artillery or anything. There's nowhere for cavalry to charge. It's ridiculous. But if we'd got them at 15 mil even, that would have brought everything into a more manageable scale. And now I tend to wargame on tables that are 3 by 4. I like the flanks. I like doing 6 mil. I've got 6 mil ancients and I've got 6 mil Napoleonic, but I've also got 10 mil fantasy, mainly from Callistra. And I've got a few of the old epic. Well, that was Warhammer, wasn't it? I say, and it is a few dwarfs with funny hats on and artillery. There's a couple of, one of the dwarfs has got like a big, it's like a Pickelhaube German helmet, but it comes down to about here. It's huge. He's a big thing on his head and a big spike. They look a bit weird, to be honest. And then the Callistra ones look incredibly realistic. So they look a bit odd side by side. But I do like the smaller scales. So if I was doing colonials now, I think I'd go for 15 mil. My mate bought a Napoleonic 6 mil army, and it's made out of MDF, flat MDF. And he got bags of these figures for peanuts. I mean, ridiculous amount of money. And now they're painted and based. They look exactly like my Pendragon figures, Majesty Militum figures, who are the old-fashioned 3-dimensional stuff. Because you're looking at them, aren't you, for such a long way, 6 mil, you can't even hardly see them. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I suppose that's why, as I've got older, more and more of my games are skirmish games. Because I'm quite happy with a sort of 10, 20-man force. I don't know if you've ever played Test of Honor, the samurai game, because in that you have a 24-point army. But a good samurai can cost you 5, or it could cost you 7 if you want a super samurai. But a samurai is usually about 5, and you want 2, so that ends, and your second one's 4, so that's 9 of your 24 points are gone. And then archers are more than musketeers, and they're more than peasants. And it's not long before you've spent 24 points. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I suppose, again, that's why I'm always happy playing solo. I've never really worried about, well, I'm not in a club, I'm missing out on something. I like having people to talk wargaming about, but this is what we're doing, isn't it? And I do also think too many cooks spoil the broth. I've been in a lot of games where there have been arguments and upset and ridiculous, childish unpleasantness over rule systems or decisions by umpires, and you think, well, hang on, we're all in our 60s and 70s. It's like a school playground. It's ridiculous. Why are you bothered? I always think if someone's putting a game on, they're in charge. And then if you don't like the game or you don't like that rule set, you don't have to play it again, do you? I think my problem is I've been a bit soft and I've said to people, oh yeah, I'll play that when really I haven't wanted to. And what I should say is, well, no, thanks for asking me, but no, it's not my cup of tea. But I tend to want to play everything and see what it's like and see. But it is easy sometimes to get swayed, isn't it? Do you know, Neil, that is 100% how I feel. I'm more than happy making my own rules, having my own. And if I make mistakes or I forget things or I do things wrong, so what? It doesn't matter, does it? That's not life and death. Well, it might be for the poor lad who just thrown the wrong dice for. But and using your imagination, that's always a great thing, isn't it? But yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, man. Yeah, because nobody understands the type of games we want better than us. I mean, I've had conversations with young wargamers at clubs who sort of slavishly follow bought rules, and you think, why? The people who wrote those rules are only wargamers like us. And to be honest, for those of us who are a bit older, the people who are writing these rules probably not has as much experience as we have. So what makes them think they know them more than we do? I don't object to other people's rules. Fantastic. I mean, I just bought the Donnybrook rules. They're really nice, good rules. And I shall pinch various bits, but I shall shove them into various other bits. But I like my own games. I think being a role player helps you as well to put in the random factors, because often the nice thing about having a real human opponent is they'll do things that you're not expecting, isn't it? If you're playing yourself, sometimes it's hard to. I mean, you try. I know you don't. You think, all right, I'm being the British now, so I'm trying to win for the British, and in a minute I'm going to go around the table and be the Zulus. And when I do that, I now want to beat the British, and I now want the Zulus to win. But I find it hard not to find myself saying, "Oh, he got me. Oh no, I'm losing." And I don't mean I'm losing, because I'm meant to be neutral. But then I think, well, it don't matter, does it? I have a right to be biased if I want to. I'm sure Tolkien was biased in favour of elves. Oh, nobody shouted at him when the end of his world, was it? Because I like sort of doing maps and historic fantasy worlds, and even historic campaigns I put into imaginary situations, because I like the idea of a background story. That always makes more sense to me. Well, no, and then when you do that and it doesn't work, you try something else, don't you? Or abandon it. And the other thing is, you haven't got lots of other people then believing that that's now the new way of doing things, because you've tried it once just as an interesting aside and you realise it doesn't work. So you think, well, I won't do that again. But then you've got other people who have a different opinion, which is fine. That's good. But we used to play years ago. the club I'm at now, there was about 12 of us went, historic gamers. There were a lot of fantasy gamers and Magic the Gathering gamers, but about 12 historical gamers. And what we'd do is one week, maybe I'd put on an English Civil War game. And then the next week, somebody else would, and so on until it got back to me, and then to something else. And that was interesting because I got to play things like muskets and tomahawks, shako, stuff I'd never done, and didn't know the rules. And rapid fire, people introduced me to things, and I could go, oh yeah, I like that. Oh, that weren't for me, but oh, I like that idea, and nick them. No, that's true. I'm not sure that we'd have wanted to, though, will we, mate? I've never had a huge problem with Games Workshop in as much as they do get people gaming. I know it's their gaming they get them into, but when I was a teacher, we always had a war games club at the school. And you'd always have this pattern of kids that start gaming and then they go to the Games Workshop in town. And then suddenly, even the dice had to be Games Workshop. Their brushes had to be Games Workshop. Their paint had to be Games Workshop. Even the tape measures had to say Games Workshop. Scenery, everything. That even though you could go online to companies like, I don't know, Harley Quinn or whatever, and buy almost the same figures because they were ex-Games Workshop designers who'd set up independently. Or you could go to the model railway shop and you could get 10 brushes for the price of one Citadel brush. And they might not be as good quality. I get it. Yeah, I buy Citadel brushes every now and again because they're great. But I need cheap brushes. I need rubbish brushes that I can wade through and happily throw away when they've come to the end of their lives. Because I use like these really thin fine liners. I find that's better for my style of painting and better for my wobbly hand situation. And they don't last. They struggle. They give up the ghost. But if I'm paying a quid for them, I can happily say, well, all these hairs fell out. I'll throw it in the bin. Although I'm glad, just because your hair falls out doesn't mean the humans get thrown in the bin, or I'd be long gone. But I'm sort of quite happy with that. I'll get lots of brushes and wade through them. It's not like a dog. A brush is for life, not for Christmas. And sort of the codexes, because I think like my squats, I'm not interested in what Games Workshop say about my squats. I've got my own, in inverted commas, codex, because I've written my own history for my squats, and it's not anything to do with Games Workshop. In fact, I wouldn't have called them squats unless I had done back in the 80s and 90s when I bought them, because I was actually doing proper 40k back then. What I never liked about 40k was I remember going to a club one day with this guy, a good mate. He was a good wargamer, and all that, nice bloke. But he was I've got this Warhammer game on tonight, and I'm going to win. And I said, well, how do you know? It's because I've spent all my points on one captain, and he's invincible. He's got all this armor and jetpacks and umpteen rocket launchers. So I thought, oh yeah, because me and my brother were talking about that. It sounded like, imagine you've got 1 million points. You might as well buy a neutron bomb. Your opponent can have as many natives as he wants, but he's not going to win, is he? I think that's a perfect way to go, and solve. You are going to be now solving all those problems, aren't you? Of how to make it a game, and is it going to be a game? And it might end up being a completely different game, and you'll have all the fun of the journey of trying to get there. But you know that. I'm telling you. I'm just agreeing with you. But that's exactly the way I like to work. Fantastic. Well, whether it happens or not, I'd be interested to see the journey. Yeah, I've just generally never been a fan of sci-fi. My wife is. My wife loves sci-fi, especially that sort of Star Trek type science fiction. And then my little brother was the sort of Star Wars generation. But I was never into science fiction. I was into fantasy. Started off going to a war games club because I liked playing soldiers, and I didn't really understand all of the different mechanisms of that. And they did 25 mil Hinchcliffe Napoleonic. In fact, most clubs did Napoleonic, didn't they? Back in the 60s and 70s, that was like a bog standard game. War Games Research Group rules, Napoleonic. And then I saw some guys with miniature figurines playing Lord of the Rings. And then I was heavily into Lord of the Rings. And then that's why I read the books, because I read The Hobbit as a few years before, but I'd not even heard of Lord of the Rings. And then these lads were playing the game of Lord of the Rings with the miniature figurines figures. So I then said, oh, there's a book. So I went and read Lord of the Rings, and that changed my life, really. Everything about my wargaming then changed. And so that'd be 72, 73. And then during 78, I got my first Dungeons and Dragons module, Tomb of Horrors, by accident. And I'd never heard of Dungeons and Dragons, and I knew nothing about role-playing games. I mean, they weren't being advertised anywhere. You had to send off to specific shops that sold them, because they were all American, weren't they? They were TSR games, I think. So that was completely new. And then even, I remember doing a YouTube thing not long ago about odd dice, D20s, D10s. They didn't even appear in gaming until Dungeons and Dragons. So I'd been gaming years by the time they came along. I remember first time I saw average dice, I was blown away, and that would be 72. I got my first average dice. Took me ages to work out what the system was, although Donald Featherstone, he was a big fan in his books. He always wrote and argued that average dice would have been better to use than D6s because you've got a lower throw rate. The difference between 2 and 5 obviously isn't as great as the difference between 1 and 6. So you don't get the wild swings if you throw in to add. And if I throw better than you and I add my modifiers, I'm going to get a lower score than if I'm throwing a D6. Especially if you're throwing a D6. So you throw a low of a 2 and I throw a high of a 5. It's a difference of 3, isn't it? You throw a low 1 and I throw a higher 6. That's 2 higher. That's a lot of difference to make up in modifiers. But all in all, I think what you said earlier about magpieing from rules is the way to go, wouldn't it? Back in the 70s, you had to make up your own rules because there was no other place to go. I mean, when we were doing Lord of the Rings with miniature figurines, there were no rules. There was chainmail, 71, or Bill Lamming had a sort of campaign game. But again, they were medieval, and they'd say things like, if you're using elves, use the table for Welsh bowmen. But they weren't actually elf tables. Yeah, I know. That was something. You can't explain that to youngsters. They don't understand the immediacy, especially when the telephone was like in a phone box at the end of the street. Or you had to, I don't know about you, I had to get my dad to write me a check for anything I wanted. And he always objected, even if it was my own money when I had a Saturday job. And I'd have my Saturday job and I'd give my mum's my housekeeping money and bit put aside for college. And I'd have a bit for myself and I'd save up my little teeny weeny bit. And every now and again I'd say, "Oh, Dad, I'm ordering some stuff from miniature figurines. Can I have £6 in a check?" Why? I'll buy some soldiers. You're 16 years old, you shouldn't be playing with soldiers. Yeah, but it's my money. I just want to buy them. No, you can't. I mean, it was all right getting Napoleonic because they have them at the stamp corner. But at the time, I don't think the stamp corner had anything other than Napoleonic Hinchcliffe downstairs in the celery bit. Later on, probably after I'd left Doncaster, they changed, but maybe in your day. Because I know I went in just right at the end of lockdown. I went in with my brother. I'd been up to Rotherham to see my mum. And we went in and I got a robot from Battletech. But it wasn't, it was just like a random figure on a rack. It could hardly turn because there was so much other stuff on this thing. I never enjoyed. Somebody said to me once, "Oh, they were great waiting for the figures, the anticipation." I was never good at anticipation. I wanted them there and then. I remember the first war game show I went to was at Elmfield Park Youth Club. The War Games Club organised it. That'd be 74. And I couldn't go because I was working a Saturday job. But I gave my mate my money and he went and bought me a big box load of elves from minifigs. That was nice. It would have been nice to have been able to go myself and pick them up. But I do like going to a shop and buying things and coming home with them. That's really how I got into doing Battle of the Bulge at 20mm because I wanted to go into town and actually buy something and come home with it. And I started getting Airfix figures again. And I'd never done snowy scenery. So I thought, okay, I'll do snowy scenery. So I went for Battle of the Bulge. And every Thursday when I went to town, there's a shop that sells graphic novels, American comics and things. So I went in, I'd go in there, and I go to the model railway shop, get some paint and railway stuff and balsa wood, plastic card, then go to Games Workshop for a look, because it's always nice in there, even if you're not buying anything. And then round to the local toy shop, which has been there since the 60s, and get some Airfix or Tamiya and get a tank. Yeah, you're sort of trying to make the best of a bad job. So what's that? I've been violated. 10 millimeters of my soldiers gone missing. He's half deserted. Oh, no, I shouldn't be laughing. That's a sad story. First 15mm I had, I went to Oldham War Games Club because when I was at Leeds Uni, And then I got a job in Rochdale, but there wasn't a war games club in Rochdale. And I lived in Rochdale when I first got married. But there was a war games club in Oldham, which it wasn't far to drive, on a Sunday afternoon. And Hinchcliffe were actually based on Saddleworth Moor, which is, probably the moor that comes out of. I lived in a place called Shaw, Holmfirth, Saddleworth, Delph, all these little villages up on Saddleworth Moor. And Holmfirth was up there. So you could sort of drive and you go in. It was like a terrace house. It wasn't like a terrace house. It was a terrace house. But you went in, it was like downstairs was empty where the living room would be, but there was a counter. And a little old lady would ask you what you wanted. And there was no way of knowing. You just had to know. You had to have a catalogue all written down, not on your hand. You had a bit of paper. And then she'd go upstairs and you'd hear her clonking about and talking to people. And then she'd come back with a big brown paper bag full of figures, not all wrapped individually or in boxes, just a massive, like pick and mix, big brown paper bag of figures. So there you go. And they pay for them off you scuttled. But we used to do 15mm Napoleonic at Oldham. No, that's true. Yeah. One of the weird, and I wish I'd got it. And even now I think about it, I saw in a catalogue, and I think it was miniature figurines. And it was the early days of Dungeons and Dragons. They did a range called Sword and Sorcery. And I have a vision in my head of this model, but I never got it and I never saw it because there wasn't a picture of it. And it was called a mouth on legs. Mouth on legs. I have visions of these big lips with like knobbly knees and boots sticking out the bottom. A mouth on legs. And another one was a snot gurgle monster. I've no idea what a snot gurgle monster was, but it did intrigue me. And if you go now, I don't know if it's Caliver Books. If you go to their Hinchcliffe stuff, and if you go to Full Thrust, Ground Zero, certainly until recently, a lot of their figures, you'd go to the figure and it'd say no image available. I immediately go, well, I'm not buying it then. If I haven't got an image, I'm not buying it. I want to see what it looks like. No idea what's coming, because I've made that mistake before. I think it was Ground Zero, and I bought some random crusty aliens. And when they arrived, because there was no pictures, I had no idea what I'd got. I didn't know what they were. Well, I knew what I'd got, but I didn't know which crusty aliens were which things, if you know what I mean. They were just amorphous, crusty aliens. So I'm like you. I need a picture. Show us a picture. Put your money where your mouth is. I'm suspicious if there's not a picture. Be like if you're going on a blind date. Why haven't they sent me a picture? What's happened? What's wrong with her? Yeah, they do. They take a while to come if you order them because they make them to order. But they've actually got, if you go to, I don't know if you've done it, but if you go to Caliver Books and you on the left-hand side, there's the old miniature figurines logo with like a guardsman. And if you click on that, it's got all their everything. It's got it's even got one of the early catalogues you can get. And they do all their figures biblical to everything. If you go to classic, fantasy and science fiction, they've got about 8-9 different ranges. But the classic one is the Lord of the Rings. Although more of it is sword and sorcery, the later range than the proper miniature figurines, Lord of the Rings figures. They do have some of them, but they don't have them all. So, and they don't have images for everything. And again, they do take quite a while to come because they make them to order, which is fair enough, isn't it? You don't want to make a lot of everything on the off chance that people want it. And I did Broadsword. They make some under license. They've got the license to make some of the old 1970s Hinchcliffe fantasy for Dungeons and Dragons, 1979 broadsword. Although personally, I've not had a look, but I do. The guy who runs broadsword contacted me and was telling me that they make a lot of their 70s figures. And at a show I went to recently, somebody was doing Grenadier figures, although they weren't called that, but they were Grenadier figures from the early 80s. Had some dwarfs riding bears. Yeah, that sounds a bit wrong, doesn't it? Ouch. Yeah. Oh, well, you can always dream. Father Christmas might bring you one if you've been a good boy. Yeah, I can see that. I think I can see that figure in my head. I like, I think I've got one. You might know what make he is. Oh, I just knocked the screen down. Hang on. I like these. And I want to say they're Vanguard. And I don't know. But I have a feeling. And they're like proper, real wolves. That's a goblin. That's one with a goblin on. But they're really, really nice looking timber wolves. Proper old school timber wolves. And the dwarfs they do look very Norse. There's Huskarls and just proper. They've got like Sutton Hoo helmets on. I never got any of the elves. The orcs are big lads, proper bigger. The bows look like half a tree they've snapped off something. But I really like those wolves. I've got about a dozen of them, and most of them I haven't put goblins on them. I just have them as roaming random wolves. I don't think anyone's managed to get the Lord of the Rings wolves right. I mean, those so-called wargs that they made for the film Lord of the Rings, you can get from Citadel Games Workshop. I don't like. They're not wargs in The Hobbit. Are just wolves that have goblins sat on them, aren't they? Well, yeah, absolutely it is. Looks, all together like that. That's an impressive looking force, isn't it? Yeah. I think sometimes you've got to say that's too good a bargain to miss. I think that's an incredible bargain. I was trying to work out how much per figure that is. That's fantastic. That's jaw-droppingly good. Excellent. Yeah, I like because that's how I got back into painting. When I first got diagnosed with the old Parkinson's, I stopped painting because it was hard, and I thought, well, I can't do it. But then I started buying chipped, battered figures, and ended up painting them. I've just finished this guy recently. I got this fella. That's a good way to see him. Not in front of my head, about over there. I can't work out which way to go. That way. He's like a little cleric praying. I don't know where to put him. I must be able to do something better with him than this. Get out. What's happening here? I'm gonna put him in a box like that. That might be not bad. He's got a little thing on his stick that says love. But he must be Games Workshop, I think. But when I came, it was almost completely painted. A little bit of a chip on him here and there. I was looking to see if it says anything on his base. No, it doesn't. But it's a smashing little figure. And he was less than £2. I keep finding all sorts of odd bonus balls. This is another one I've just grabbed as well. It's this fella. I know it's not really good showing him here because I can't do. He hasn't got anything on his base. Well, he has. He's got some letters, FTS17. But he looks like a skeleton. He definitely is a skeleton with a pickaxe. You might know what he is. I don't know. He's definitely a skeleton. He's got a pickaxe. And he's got like a solid base. He looks citadel-y. Yeah. I've honestly no idea, mate. Asgard would be a good call. I got him off eBay in a sort of random box of, because the box said mixed Hinchcliffe miniature figurines, Asgard. So yeah, it could well be Asgard. I'm going to say it's Asgard. If everybody says no, it's not, I'm going to say, well, Neil said it was. So take it with Neil. Don't argue with me. I'm just going with man. Well, I'm coming to that time again, Neil, with about 2 minutes to go before I have to love you and leave you, if you'll pardon the expression. I'll be doing next Friday. I hope you keep well, dude. And after that, I'll probably wait and see. Yeah, you are. I'll talk crap. You take the blame. We're a team. We're like Batman and Robin. So, all right, Neil, I'll see you next week, dude. Look after yourself. I'm looking forward to finding out whether or not your Wars of the Roses Undead Richard III game comes about. It'll be fun either way. Keep well. Cheers, man. Bye.